We're in the midst of the Silver Age. DC is ruling the roost. It's 1958, and I bet you won't be able to guess what the one non-DC book that made the list was. We'll check them all out up next on this video from Bronzeville Comics. Hello, panelologists. This is Jim from Bronzeville Comics coming to you with another video. And before we get started, please like, comment, subscribe. Check out the description of this video for links to my eBay store, email, whatnot, and Instagram. Every week, I've been counting up year by year the books that are most submitted to CGC for grading. And we're up to 1958, the third year of the Silver Age. And this is DC's time in the Silver Age. Marvel isn't even Marvel yet. We have a few years to go before that. And what we do is we count the top 10 books with the most universal blue labels. I use cgcdata.com to compile the data. And we also look at other key books that didn't quite make the top 10 and books from publishers, the most submitted books from other publishers, which I think is an interesting piece of comic book history. We also take a look at, I'm going to do this I guess through 1960, the DC books that have survived since the Golden Age, their top issue in each the titles: Action, Detective, Adventure, World's Finest, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, and Superboy. So let's just jump into it, and we're going to start with a DC book. And coming in at number 10 on the list is Challengers of the Unknown, number 1. This Jack Kirby story cover and art. And this predates the Fantastic Four. It's 4 individuals in costumes who survive a plane crash, but they don't have superpowers, at least not in this issue. It would happen once. This does kind of serve a little bit as a prototype for the Fantastic Four, which will come up in 3 years. But this is one of the more solid contributions this early in the Silver Age. The Challengers of the Unknown had their own book throughout the 1960s, and this is their number 1 issue. Very much a blend of the sci-fi that was very popular at the time with the human pets and this giant alien. This particular book makes it to the Census with 186 copies. Number 9 on the list is the book I was alluding to in the opening, and that is the non-DC book on the list, and it's actually a magazine. Famous Monsters of Filmland, number 1. This is the first book from Warren Publishing. They would be known throughout the 60s and into the 70s for a lot of horror-related magazines, including Vampirella, that do have comic stories in them. This does have Will Elder art. It is definitely does have comic elements to it, but it is a magazine. It's magazine-sized, and it does serve as the it's more of a fanzine, more of a monster magazine for fans of film monsters. But it does get included in cover price, so I do include it in the this list, unlike, Playboy or Sports Illustrated, let's say. And this made the Census with a total count of 187. We're back to DC, and it is at 8th on the list is Showcase number 13. This is the first appearance of the Silver Age Flash. He had a single appearance in 1956 at the end of the year, one in 1957, and now this is his first appearance in 1958. This is a Carmine Infantino and Frank Giacomo cover. And it's a slow roll by DC. They weren't sure I don't think they were sure how Flash was going to be received by readers, but they got enough good feedback from Showcase 4 and then Showcase 8. But it took only 4 issues for him to get his second appearance and 5 issues to get his third. And, hadn't yet gotten his own title. So we will see his own title next year. There was no Flash in 1958, and this Census count is 234. We move one spot up on the list, and it's showcase number 14, the fourth appearance of the Flash, also with a Carmine Infantino and Frank Giacoia cover. This is his final issue in showcase before he gets his own book. This includes Dr. Alchemy, the previous issue, which I think is a bigger key, maybe just because a little earlier. They're pretty parallel. That contains the first appearance of Mr. Element, who's the same guy as Dr. Alchemy. At any rate, again, we haven't seen any other superheroes or any other creations outside of, like, essentially the Superman and Batman titles. Yet in the Silver Age for DC, we don't have Green Lantern, we don't have the Atom, we don't have Hawkman, we don't even have Supergirl yet. So, you know, it took several years for DC to really jump into the superheroes. Marvel, because DC had already tested the waters and it was selling books, Marvel jumped in real quick. Within 2 years, they had a whole stable of characters. It took DC probably about 4 years, and even a little more than that, to become fully entrenched back in the superhero business. They were trying other things like Challengers of the Unknown. This particular issue has a census count of 266. Now, number 5 on the list is Superman's Girlfriend Lois Lane, number 1. Kind of this classic campy cover by Kurt Swan and Stan Kay of Lois as a witch. Supergirl. Lois Lane would last into the 1970s in her own series. Jimmy Olsen already had his own series. The number 1, I think, was 1955. Before those two books and Supergirl are all combined into Superman Family. But this is a character. First appearance in Action Comics number 1, still a relevant character. Rachel Brosnahan is playing her in the Superman movie coming out this summer. Lois Lane, I would say, is probably the most well-known and most influential supporting character in all of comic books. I'm going to stick by that. And she's been around since day one. She's as old as Superman. Actually, in the Snyderverse, she was older. So this was a long-running title. But again, what's DC expanding to? They're expanding within the Superman universe. And this particular book has a census count of 285. Up next, in 5th on the list, is Showcase number 17. This is the first appearance of Adam Strange, a Gil Kane cover. Mike Sikowski and Bernard Sachs did the interior art. And it's billed as Adventures on Other Worlds. We don't even see Adam Strange's name in the title. So it's almost like initially he was more of just a standard sci-fi character. But he proved popular enough for them to bring him back. Is he a superhero? He's kind of superhero adjacent. DC did incorporate him rather quickly through Justice League into their main continuity. Again, we're not seeing a lot of crossover between heroes. And one of the things about DC in the Silver Age, there were separate editorial sections, right? Mort Weisinger's doing the Superman books. Julius Schwartz is doing Showcase and whatnot. But this is a pretty important book. Showcase number 17, the first appearance of Adam Strange. And it comes in with a census count of 362. Up at number 4 spot is Superman number 123. This is the like a prototype issue. It does have a Kurt Swan and Stan Kay cover of Supergirl. It's a kind of a Supergirl tryout. It does occur before the first appearance of Kara Zor-El. And again, they were slowly expanding the mythos within the Superman titles, and that's going to really kind of rule the day the rest of the way out. We don't see the Supergirl proper yet, but we see this prototype. Actually, the costume is very close to what we would get. Otto Binder did write it, and we'll talk more about this when Supergirl. Otto Binder also created Mary Marvel, and there are a lot of similarities between the two characters. this is the top Superman book of the year, and it comes in with a census count of 475. Now, at number 3 on the list is Adventure Comics 247. This is the first appearance of the Legion of Superheroes, which is the first superhero team of the Silver Age. They predate not only the Avengers and the X-Men, etc., they predate the Justice League of America. It took a while before their second appearance, but this is the first appearance of Saturn Girl, Lightning Lad, who in this issue is called Lightning Boy, and Cosmic Boy. And even though their costumes would change, not as much for Cosmic Boy, but their costumes would change pretty quickly with subsequent appearances, and the Legion would grow very rapidly over the next several years within Adventure Comics as part of the Superboy mythos, right? And for those of you maybe more familiar with current iterations of Superboy, Superboy at this point in time was literally billed as the adventures of Superman when he was a boy. So this is young Superman taking place in the past, but then, of course, the Legion of Superheroes is 1,000 years in the future. Probably more like, 985 years in the future because they adjust for Superboy's age. But he would go into the future and have adventures with the superhero team, and then Saturn Girl, whose power was telekinesis, would put a mental block so he wouldn't remember how the future played out, and that would bother in the past. But at any rate, Legion of Superheroes became a very popular team for a very long time, and this is a very important comic book. It does have a census count of 501, and this has the most restored copies for this year with 87, which is a pretty large number. It's almost 20% of the print run, or of the Universal to restored. So there are a lot of restored books of this particular issue. Coming in at number 2 on the list, staying within Superman, it is Action Comics 242, the first appearance of Brainiac. And this does have a Kurt Swan cover. Brainiac, a 5th level intelligence from the planet Kolu. And he does have a great cover appearance. This, of the books in the top 10, this has the lowest mean grade of just 3.43, which is fairly low for a book from 1958. And I've always said throughout this series, that's indicative of the fact that collectors are more likely to get this book graded in lower grades, in 1s and 2s, because they still have solid value. And again, I don't talk about values in this series. We just talk about census counts to kind of point out the books that are most popular amongst collectors, and also have their availability, because we know some books people really want, but the census count is low because there aren't that many of them available. So there's kind of two factors that come into play, right? How much is the book worth, and how many are there, right? If there are a lot of copies out there, which is true for some of the humor books like Disney, etc., but it's not worth a lot of money, so it's not worth getting graded in lower grades. But for like some of these first appearances of major superhero characters, people do get it graded in lower grades, and that ends up having more on the census. As we move into, I would say, the 1970s, it's going to be more indicative of the demand as opposed to the supply in terms of graded books, except for books that are in very high demand but are very hard to find. They're going to have low census counts, but they're still in high demand. Things like Cerebus 1, independent books, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 1 first print, Bone 1, those sorts of things. But at any rate, let's get back to 1958 and the first appearance of Brainiac. This clocks in with 676 copies on the census. Let's go to the number 1 book on the list, and the number 1 book is Superboy number 68. This is also a villain first appearance. It's the first appearance of Bizarro. Although this is a different Bizarro than the Bizarro that would be used throughout the Silver Age, because this is the Superboy version of Bizarro, as opposed to the Superman version of Bizarro. It's kind of a little bit different take, but it is a classic take on the character. This is a Kurt Swan and Stan K cover. Bizarro would have his own feature in Adventure Comics. He would also, like, have all sorts of different Bizarros. Bizarro Lois Lane, Bizarro Batman, Bizarro Mixed Use Pitalik, etc. But this is Superboy was a pretty popular title at the time, so there are a lot out there, but this is a desired book. It's a major first appearance character. And it's also a Bizarro. That term is ensconced in popular culture, right? There was that whole Seinfeld episode about the Bizarro Jerry, etc. It is used for something that is like the reverse, wrong, different image of something or someone else. So that's just kind of interesting that we use it pretty casually. So, Bizarro is a big part of popular culture. I do like this book. This book, the Superman 123, those books, both of them, I have raw. I don't have graded. They're just part of my personal collection. I'm not in a rush to get them graded. They are reasonably nice copies and well worth getting graded. They're not in the 9s, certainly, but I'm getting more and more of these books on the list. So this checks in with a total of 807 copies on the census, which still doesn't top Mad Magazine #1 yet. So Mad Magazine is still holding the record up until 1958 of the most copies on the census. I think that's going to change fairly soon. And it's going to change a lot as we move forward. Okay, let's take a look at books outside the top 10 and kind of why I put them on this list. I talked about the major DC books and their top books. So this is the top Wonder Woman book from the year. It's issue number 98. Ross Andru and Mike Esposito cover and art, the first time they teamed up together on Wonder Woman. And they were kind of the quintessential Wonder Woman artists for much of the Silver Age. This is a new Wonder Woman origin, which is kind of a turning point for the character. Again, all these characters, including the characters that were backups like Aquaman and Green Arrow, there wasn't a cut point in the Silver Age where we said, okay, anything prior to this is the Golden Age character, which later became Earth 2, and anything from here forward is the Silver Age character. It's not that cut and dried. And I guess in terms of denoting the difference, they just went to the month that Showcase 4 came out and said, okay, this is the Silver Age version of Aquaman. This is the Silver Age version of Green Arrow, etc. At any rate, this Wonder Woman book has 183 copies on the census. The top Detective Comics is Detective Comics 259 with a Kurt Swan cover. And this is the first appearance of the Calendar Man, who for some reason is on fire. The summer sun he's portraying. Okay. Aaron with the A1 Comics is a big fan of this book, but it's a minor Batman villain first appearance, and it does have a census count of 259. Let's go to other publishers. From Dell, this is a pretty big book. This is 4-color, number 878, which retroactively become Peanuts #1. What happened is the 4-color title, it's already at 878 issues in the 1950s. There would be several issues coming out a month, and you wouldn't see 4-color in a trade dress. You'd see whatever the feature of the book is. And then if it was successful enough, this happened with Uncle Scrooge, it's happened with other titles, then Dell would launch that property in their own title, and the 4-color issue would become the retroactive, I guess, #1. And that's true of Peanuts, with this classic cover of Charlie and Snoopy watching TV in 1958 with the rabbit ears and the small little TV on the stand. This is a very sought after book by collectors because Peanuts is a major part of 20th century popular culture. And it comes in with a census count of 145. We didn't have any Batman issues on the list, no real keys. So the top Batman book is Batman #120, also with a Kurt Swan cover. So he's doing Batman as well at this time. This is the first Whirly Bats. Not really. I do have this book as well. Not really something that is of major significance, but Batman is highly collected, and these earlier 10-cent issues are going to be as well. I do have this in reasonably high grade. This has a census count of 132. Atlas was the name of the publisher between Timely and Marvel. It's Atlas, and their top book is Strange Worlds #1, which is a Jack Kirby and Christopher Rule cover. A space flying saucer depiction for just 5 issues. This is the top Atlas book for 1958 in terms of submissions to CGC and Universal Blue Labels. And it does have a census count of 107. Okay. Another DC book on the list. This is the top issue of World's Finest. This is issue number 94, which is the origin of the Superman-Batman team retold. And it is a Kurt Swan, Sheldon Moldoff, and Stan K cover. I guess Moldoff probably did Batman and Robin on the cover, and Swan did Superman and maybe some other characters, and probably Stan K did the inking. So the origin Superman-Batman team, if I remember correctly, because it was a very common trope, they probably used each other's identities to defeat the villains. That happened a lot. Anyway, this is an issue with a census count of 98. The next publisher, and it's kind of interesting to see this publisher so high up on the list of publishers, but it also speaks to the paucity of publishers and what they were putting out. This is If the Devil Would Talk, no number, from the Catechetical Guild, which published these kind of communist warning with a religious bent comics, and it looks like, the devil is, communism coming over from the USSR. Good at parallels. I'm going to do a video on, there are some websites to find these reprints because they're public domain, so you can take a look at them. They're interesting to look at without spending a great deal of money for a book from 1958. There are 52 copies on the census. The top book from IW Enterprises is Strange Planets #1. This is an Everett Raymond Kinsler cover. This does have an average census count of average grade of 8.47. I don't know if there's a warehouse find. There are a lot of file copies or whatever it is. And, if you have a high grade book from 1958, if it's like a 9.6, why not submit it? Just kind of pedestrian science fiction for the era. I'm not sure what IW Enterprises ended up becoming. At any rate, this has a census count of 49. From Harvey Comics, Harvey Publications, their top book is Friendly Ghost Casper #1, where you got here on the cover, Casper is dreaming of, is that Wendy? Who's dreaming of Casper, who's dreaming of Wendy, who's dreaming of Casper. An interesting Infinity cover. Friendly Ghost Casper lasts for 224 issues, all the way to 1982. We've talked before about, Casper is a very well-known character, that Christina Ricci movie in the 90s. This does have a census count of 48. From American Comics Group, their flagship title, Forbidden Worlds. This is issue number 73. It's got an Ogden Whitney cover and art. And what we see on the cover is a World War II airman being hunted down by pirates. But this is an important issue for American Comics Group. It's the first appearance of Herbie. And that's what makes this a very collectible issue and results with 42 copies on the census. The next one, I haven't included foreign comics on this, but I think that this is an important one. And I think it'll surprise a lot of people in terms of the origin of the feature that makes this a key book. And this is Spirou, number 1071 from Edition Dupuis, a Belgian book. And this is the first appearance of Pierre-Péo Culliford's The Smurfs. The Smurfs go back to 1958. So for you 80s kids, they had been around for quite a while. What's interesting is the following issue is their first cover appearance, and I'm putting a picture of that up there because the Smurfs look exactly like the Smurfs. I always wondered about Smurf reproduction. Not too much, but just like who and how. Just kind of more scientific than anything else. But this is the top book from Edition Dupuis, and it has a census count of 41. Next book on the list is Humbug number 7, which is the top book from Humbug. And this is interesting. It is a nude woman cover. That is curious. An Arnold Roth cover. It does contain art by Jack Davis and Russ Heath, inspired by Mad. Certainly, Humbug has 39 copies on the census, and I imagine the reason that it has as many copies as it does because it has a nude woman cover. Archie Comics, a standby since the Golden Age. Anyway, it's a number 1 issue for Archie. It's Life with Archie number 1. With him on the cover with Betty and Veronica, and it's still very much that 50s style with the big eyes, and Archie with the pants that match his hair. This is the top book from Archie. It's kind of common, unless you have innuendo, that the top Archie books for any given year are number 1s, and this comes in with 38 copies on the census. The next book we're going to look at is Bugs Bunny's Vacation Bunnies number 8. Because this is the first appearance of the Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote in comic books. They had already been in cartoon shorts, but this is their first appearance in comic books. This is from Dell. It's not the top book from Dell, but it is a notable first appearance, and it has a census count of 34. Talked about Mad Magazine. They're the top book from EC Comics. Mad number 43 with a Frank Kelly Frias cover. And we kind of hit their stride, Alfred E. Newman on the cover, etc. This, again, is a magazine-sized book, and it has a census count of 32. From Accepted Publications, Popular Teenagers number 5, with an L.B. Cole cover. A little bit different style or genre for L.B. Cole, and it doesn't... I mean, the primary colors are still there, but there's more going on than usual. And it's also a brighter, color scheme than we're used to with the beach on the boardwalk with the amusement park in the background. Anyway, Popular Teenagers number 5 has a census count of 29. From Major Magazines, their top book is Cracked number 1, which lasted for a long time. This is, I don't know who did the cover, but this is very much in the style of Mad Magazine, including the same with Humbug, that border with a lot of stuff going on in the border. This ran for 212, well, actually, through different publishers, it ran all the way to 2004 and a total of 365 issues. And this has a census count of 23. The top comic from Charlton is Out of This World number 8. Maurice Whitman cover. It's a larger book, science fiction with the hands in the airplane. This does include Steve Ditko art, among others. Charlton kind of hanging on. They would hang on for quite a while longer. We'll see more submitted books when we get to their superhero stuff in the 1960s. But this is a book with 18 copies on the census. Top book from Farrell is Strange Journey number 3, with this woman luring the Titanic toward the iceberg. That's kind of interesting. Again, the science fiction, kind of horror light genre, I guess. This has 15 copies on the census. The top book from St. John Publications. This is the only issue, Secret of True Love number 1. It has a Matt Baker cover, and that is very much a Matt Baker looking young lady. in the working in the diner here. And it's interesting. This has an average grade of just 3.71, and the highest grade on the Census is just a 6.0. So a hard book to find in decent condition, and a hard book to find in general. 14 copies on the Census. From the top book from Fago magazines, it's Tense Suspense, #1, Dick Ayers cover. And this does kind of have more of a horror vibe. It is a code book, obviously. He kept anguishedly trying to disbelieve the evidence of his reeling senses. He kept trying to deny that the impossible had happened, that the curse had come true. Please, no. So kind of that little bit of horror there, just a little bit, I think. Tense Suspense #1, that's fun to say, 11 copies on the Census. From Accepted Publications, their top book is White Rider #6, an L.B. Cole cover, and the color scheme here, especially with the dark background, classic L.B. Cole. People are going to seek that out. The one thing I do want to say about Matt Baker, Baker is just, he's a year away from his untimely death in 1959. And he would spend most of the last year of his career, because he passed away in 59, books came out in 1960, working for Atlas. So we'll see some of those next year and even the year after. Let's go to the top book from Pines, and this is Dennis the Menace #31. This is the final Pines issue. This is an Al Wiseman cover, even though it's signed by Ketchum. This is the first appearance of Joey McDonald. I don't know who that is. It's been a very long time since I watched the Dennis the Menace TV show. Yeah, Dennis would run for quite a while in under other publishers. They continued this numbering. This is the last Pines issue. The top book from Zondervan Publishing House is The Centurion of Ancient Rome. No number. I don't know anything about this comic, other than it has a census count of 8. That ties it with the top book from Magson Publications. This is World Famous Creatures, similar to that Famous Monsters of Filmland magazine. This is a magazine size with John Severin art. There is a special photo section. I don't know much about this book. This one also with a census count of 8. Our top entrant from Gilberton is Classics Illustrated #144, which adapts The First Men in the Moon by H.G. Wells. Wells and Verne adaptations in Classics Illustrated are amongst the more popular amongst collectors and tend to be the ones that make this list. This is Gilberton. Gilberton is Classics Illustrated and Classics Junior, pretty much period, end of story. We're not going to see anything that Classics Illustrated, not a highly collected title, and it's readily available. I see them all the time. This has a census count of 6, and that ties it with the top book from Prize, which is Black Magic, issue #39. Again, kind of a little bit of more sci-fi-ish horror. And again, this has a census count of 6. 2 more books to go. From Ajax Farrell, their top book is Strange #6. Again, horror elements to this. You could win a free RCA Victor Color TV set. Color TV was not common in 1958. It didn't become common until the mid-1960s. This particular book has a census count of 5, and that ties it with the top book from Counterpoint, which is Thimk #2, a humor comic that ran for 6 issues. The Lip Movers Digest. Don't know much about this. I'm not sure what to make of this. It is kind of intriguing. False Confessions. I Sneezed in Church. Tall Story. I Love the Abominable Snowman. Rough Romances. My Boss Pinched Me. That's 1958. And Blabbermouth Secrets. I Married a Wrestler. You think these covers are crazy. For worse ones, see page 10. But this also has a census count of 5. So that's going to do it for our 1958 list. Number of publishers is smaller. DC is, on top of things at this point in time. We'll see what 1959 brings, And that's when DC started to rev things up a little bit more. There are going to be some first appearances just going to be as to what makes the top of the list. So anyway, I'd like to thank you for stopping by. Please share this, comment on it, give it a thumbs up. I know the algorithm, and I know that people are enjoying this series through the comments that I get, and I get in person as well. So I'd like to thank you for checking it out. You can take a look at a couple of my other videos here, and this is Jim saying until next time, enjoy your comics.